Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Season 6. Let's see what happens. Okay, so Jimmy and Chelsea are starting a conversation. They're both on their phones. A theme this season. For some reason, I thought maybe they would just be done with each other, but no, that wasn't definitive. Okay. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter what my prediction is, but it might help to understand what I typically see in real life is that, if both people are in love and dedicated and they don't want to lose the other person, even though all that stuff happened, and even though in the moment, and maybe for a time, one or both of them were telling themselves that it was over and they hate that person and it's, there's just no way that it's going to recover. That, we all need attachments. We all want to have hope for the future. So maybe that's starting to settle in, and at least visually, she's the one approaching him right now. And based on the pattern that I see with this couple and in life, my guess is that she will have the tone and some words of apology and halfway taking responsibility. He will stay pretty defended. Eventually he'll warm up. Then she will start to feel more regulated. There'll be a little bit more goodwill between the two, because his body language, his face, I don't even seen that body language or face before. He seems really just like the walls are up. And once the walls are down, then she'll, in a cutesy way like she has in the past, she'll start sneaking in some of the criticism, like you're a bad communicator, or I don't know, you can't be friends with women or something. I don't know if she'll go that far, but maybe making suggestions like, I don't want to be with someone that goes out and drinks, but we'll talk about it later. So, and he'll maybe push back on it a little bit, but it's enough reason for him to believe that maybe she's learned her lesson or changed her ways, but he'll be more skeptical than before because he's been here before. Or they break up. Or he's a complete asshole and he reveals himself for who he truly is. I don't know. You know what happens, but I guess there's no way that this is going to be good for either one of them unless there's a couple therapists that is working with them intensely, at the very least weekly, to help them navigate this. Even with that, for a long time, they would still experience a lot of the same sort of conflict. It wouldn't change right away at all. The couples that I work with that are sort of in this category, and this is pretty typical, it's the problems they have, it's not like some weird exotic problem. It's in the realm of just a little bit more than average, honestly. So it would still take a long time. So unless that begins, I would say there's 0% chance that this is going to work.
What have you been up to?
I went home.
And we'll watch out for either one of them saying just some simple solution of, I'm just never going to do that again, which is not a viable plan.
I had time to sort of collect my thoughts, and when I had time to really think about what I wanted, and what I wanted out of this experiment was to, show you I love you and be there for you and take you home and be proud to call you my wife. And
I'm sure you know where this is headed, but it was a bit of a roller coaster. He started out talking like decided to end things, but then when he says that, it sounds like no. And it's fine. He's free to make his choice. I'm sure there's a lot of wringing of hands while watching this. I'm currently wringing my hands. But, each to their own.
I just feel like I was a little betrayed the other night, and this morning, my perspective on getting married, I decided I didn't want to.
I'm on the edge of my seat. It's going back and forth. I don't know why I predict. My prediction still stands. I think that, he's in love. And when you're in love, you don't easily throw that away, even when times get tough. So I'm going to take a guess and say that she'll make up for it somehow, and they'll give it another try, and then they'll either have another fight and then really break it off or say no at the altar, or they won't have another fight and she'll hold it together for the most part and they won't trigger each other. Maybe he'll even avoid doing anything to trigger her, like he'll never leave her side. They say yes, yes at the altar, and then we never hear about anything ever again. And they have whatever life they have behind closed doors, and we never find out. So, for better or for worse. Sort of like with Matt and Colleen, there were a lot of concerns, I think rightfully so, about their relationship. And with most of those relationships, like Zenab and Cole, they break up. So they are, in our minds, no longer involved with each other. Now, I know or suspect that the people that have issues will have those issues with other people in the future. It's just not on camera. So it's not like the trouble ends, but that's usually what happens. It's kind of rare when we see like big, huge red flags and then they get married and then there's just this absence of data, right? But all these questions and concerns, right? People are worried. So we just have to live with the fact that they're just regular citizens. They're not even really famous people with paparazzi, right? And we'll just never know. So that could happen to this couple.
So you're saying no?
You told me you didn't think I love you. That statement alone, that hurts my feelings that you don't think I love you.
Yeah, he's speaking from the heart. He's being differentiated, and I statements make sense. And it sounds like this is an open door for her to suck him back in, i.e. repair the relation. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't shy away from a phrase like suck him back in because it will happen again. It will. Now, if she is in therapy now during this time or she, if they're still together, which I don't know, and she has been in therapy this whole time and she's really working on it and she occasionally will transgress in that way and be triggered for real and imagined threats, then, he can make his own choice about that. But from the outside, I would say, well, at least there's a pathway that the individual that is transgressing is taking to reduce the chances of transgressing again in the future. But unless that happens, and not on purpose, she's not sucking him back in. She doesn't think that she's going to do it again, but it will happen again. I would put so much money on that, whether it's caught on camera or not. In fact, even with a lot of therapy, it's, I can't know for sure, but chances are very, very high that the exact thing that we saw will happen with whoever she's with. Like I said, even with a lot of therapy, the kind of things that we're seeing in all likelihood require a long time to recover from. And even when you do recover, you never fully recover because you can't just completely excise the neural pathways that were established when you were young and just get rid of all of them. You'd be getting rid of half your brain or more. Not that half your brain is filled with that stuff, but it's all interwoven anyway, you know what I'm saying?
I love you. And I will always fight for the woman I love. I always have, and I always will. And I fought for you a lot through this experiment, but you're saying that I'm not giving you any love and affection, and I feel like I'm giving you as much as I possibly can give.
Okay, so if they're on the road to getting back together, if you're ever in these shoes, the pathway, I guess you consider there to be kind of two prongs to it. One is that he's, I think, seeking an apology and an acknowledgement from her to say, like, I do know that you love me, and I'm sorry that I said that you didn't. I was just really upset, something like that, something convincing. So that's one. But that only addresses the moment that happened. The other issue that is more important is the bigger issue that she's done a lot of things in this category, all the things that I've talked about. And so, of course, he would want some acknowledgement, some apology about that, but I more importantly, would want if I were in his shoes, do you understand that you have an overall issue? You know, if I wasn't a therapist, I didn't know about this stuff, I would say, I don't know what's going on, but there's something going on in you that causes you to see and believe things that just aren't even true. And then you get upset because you believe these false things, like I was with Jess or that I don't love you. This has happened multiple times, and I don't know what that is. But until that mechanism is changed or managed or healed or something, then it might not be this particular manifestation, but it's going to happen again because it's happened multiple times. So what's that? You know, again, I'm not a therapist. If I was a therapist, I'd be like, well, here's what you do. But if I'm not, I'd be like, what do you think about that? How are you working on that? What's the plan with that? Do you acknowledge that, because that's the core, that's the foundation.
This is just hard to hear. I apologize, and the things that I said were things that were bothering me and really heavy on my heart. Was my delivery good? No.
I thought it'd be better than that. Yeah. She's basically saying, I agree with everything I said. I just could have delivered it differently. What? Yikes. Right? That's all she said. I could have delivered it. And I'm guessing for him, this is being comprehended, that he's like, wait, what? Yeah, that is far. I mean, you'll hear people say that when they know they didn't even do anything wrong, right? I mean, I've said that when I know I've done nothing wrong. Like I don't know. Well, I'm talking to a client, and I do wrong things with clients, and I will apologize for it. You know, I guess when I'm mature or differentiated enough to recognize it. But there are times when there will be something that happened that I'm 99% sure that it was some transference issue going on with the client, and I want to provide some level of reciprocity in the apology process. And so I might say, and I apologize for my side as well. I stand by what I said, but I absolutely could have delivered it differently, even though I think that isn't necessarily true. But that's always basically true. I could have delivered it differently, or I could have maybe been more slow or patient or something. But that's what she's saying. She's basically saying, I agree when I said that someone told me that Jess was there last night, and I know she was there. I agree with what I said when I told you that I don't want to be with someone that goes out at all, period. I agree that it was okay for me to scream in your face and say that you fucked that girl, even though you told me in confidence and told me, even though you didn't have to tell me, and it was a long time ago and completely irrelevant to what we're talking about, and I did it in front of the cameras, so now the entire world knows not only about you, but about her. I agree with everything that I did, that I fought with you because last night I was tired and didn't want to go out, and you went out for an hour and a half or an hour and had one drink. I agree that the whole fight was, and everything I said, nothing she said in terms of the edit made any sense. The whole thing was based on her own invented lies in her head that she didn't volitionally cause, but he did nothing. I just want to emphasize, he did nothing. So for her to say, I agree with what I said, I could have delivered it differently, it was still a pile of shit for no reason. Sure, could you have delivered the pile of shit in a different way? Yeah, but it's still a pile of shit. She's not a pile of shit. I want to be clear. I think that's clear. But now, as a therapist, when I treat people like her, at least what I think to be her, I don't know if it's similar, but I have all the patience in the world and all the understanding. And that's kind of a part of it, is that when I watch the show, I have no ability to help. I'm just watching helplessly. When the client's right in front of me, I don't feel that at all. And I take the long game. I might even be thinking, well, it's probably something to work on in a couple years. I don't think they're ready for that yet. I don't have any of this frustration typically. I mean, certainly I can be provoked to, but all I have is compassion and the long game, and it feels very gratifying to take each step down that road. Here I'm just watching, and it's so I get frustrated. But yeah, let's rewind. What did you say?
I apologize, and the things that I said were things that were bothering me and really heavy on my heart. Was my delivery good? No, not at all. And I am so sorry about that, and I can't apologize anymore.
Now, maybe in her heart, she is really apologizing and feeling remorse. It has the look of that. But in terms of the edit, there's zero evidence of that. It's a non-apology. She's saying, I apologize. I can't apologize more. You can apologize a lot more. You can say, I'm sorry for saying that. I should never have outed that. I should never have accused you of that. I should never have even been upset that you went out for an hour. I said to you that you lied to me repeatedly. I said you lied. I accused you of not responding when I told you I didn't want you to be friends with those women. I never asked you to do that. And I continued to double down. And last night, I never admitted any wrong last night. And I was wrong from beginning to end. Now, I don't know if that's true. There's a high chance that it is true, but I don't know if that's true. We're seeing it edit. I don't know anything. But I've seen this happen in my office. And when I'm there, I have some ability to work on it. But here, I just want to point out, mainly because if you have a partner or even yourself that does this sort of thing, it needs to be understood, because if you're being treated this way, and I imagine it's true that for many of you, whether it's this video or another one, you are recalling events that you've been through or are going through, and it pulls you temporarily out of the gaslighting and the crazy making situation. You're like, yeah, okay, that's right. That's what it felt to me too. I felt like I didn't do anything wrong, but it's hard. You go through it for so long, and it looks so convincing. She's crying. And again, she might be legitimately remorseful, but I'm hearing no evidence of that. What I think is possible is that she feels sad because she doesn't want to lose him. I don't think she's a psychopath. I don't think she is incapable of remorse. I think she's completely clouded by her trauma. So there's that. But in terms of having a mutual relationship that can grow and adjust, she's exhibiting behavior that shows that she doesn't have that ability. She can adjust and she can have empathy, but given the cloud, it doesn't allow her to have that. So, yeah, and that's important to know, that when someone apologizes to you and they're showing all the main sort of highlights, the tears, I apologize, the desperation. But if you really listen to let's really listen to what she says here. It's edited, but really listen.
Hard to hear. I apologize, and the things that I said were things that were bothering me. And
I apologize. Okay, that's a good start. When I talk about, I have my different, criteria for an effective apology. Often in those criteria of an apology, they will say, you have to say you're sorry or I apologize. I don't include that. You certainly can say I apologize or I'm sorry, but I can apologize very effectively without ever uttering the word apology or sorry. Like if I were in her shoes, let me demonstrate. Last night, I made a lot of mistakes and I feel so bad for what I did to you. And I'm still sifting through it, and a part of me thinks that you're a jerk face, but from my experience and the therapy I've been through, there's a pretty good chance that I was the jerk face. And I just, all night I've been struggling, and there's a side of me that just wants to believe that I was being mistreated, but when I think about it, all you did was go out with your friends for an hour, and I think you came back early, partially because you're working the next day, but also because I think you didn't want me to worry, which is, it's a nice thing. And yeah, I was tired. I wouldn't have gone with you, and you should be able to do that. But I just got so hung up on it, and I just feel so bad about it. You notice I never said sorry, at least I don't think so. I never said apology, right? But that's an apology, God damn it. And just saying I apologize without anything in that direction is not a fucking apology. People, stop it. The world needs to know this. I'll shout it. Because public figures will say, I apologize. I take full responsibility. And then it ends. Or they follow it with a but. But, you should know. It's like, well, it's not an apology. Being sorry is to be sorrowful. Sorrow. Remorse. To have it and to show it and convince that you have it. She's crying. Maybe she does have remorse. She doesn't seem to. She says she stands by everything she says, except for the delivery.
Really heavy on my heart. Was my delivery good? No, not at all. And I am so sorry about that, and I can't apologize anymore.
Now, maybe y'all know that she apologizes more with actual remorse. We'll see. I also want to be clear, I'm not beating up on her. She is the last person that deserves to be beat up on. The last person. She is doing this, if I understand what she's doing, or I'll just say everyone I know who does this clinically has the worst childhoods and are constantly suffering. They are the most suffering people on the planet. And there's a lot of suffering on the planet because the suffering goes with them wherever they go. To you out there that have that suffering, and some of you know this, there is recovery and much less suffering with awareness and corrective experiences with a specialist. It can happen. And secure relationships. Earn security. I'm not beating up on her. If I'm in his shoes, I'm frustrated and I'm like, that's not an apology. If I'm in her shoes, and I've said this before, but if they don't work out, I'm guessing, be okay. Her, on the other hand, because of, I think, what's happening for her, she won't be okay. And the next relationship could be even worse. And what happens if she actually matches up with someone who actually is harmful to her, right? I don't know, maybe Jimmy is harmful to her, but clinically what I see is just so much suffering. So I'm not beating up on her. I'm just sort of shaking fist at internet apology, and she just reminded me of that.
I forgive you for that.
I know, hear me out. I know that night was horrible, but like for you to just throw in the towel if having a bad night is like that.
Yeah, it's playing out pretty similar to how I predicted, that he would have the walls up and then she would exhibit some softness, but it's not real soft. It's not like the sort of softness that gives me optimism. And as soon as he exhibits some of the walls coming down, he says, I forgive you for that. Then she's starting right back in with the criticism. And maybe it's deserved, and maybe I'm completely off, and I'm terrified of that. I'm terrified that somehow the entire viewing audience is just like, what are you talking about, Kirk? He's a D-bag. She's a victim. I don't know. I can only call him how I see it, and I could be wrong. I have no idea. I'm saying this because if you're seeing it as I'm seeing it, and you've been through it, or you will go through it, or you're going through it now, having a perspective that can, at the very least in your mind, tell you that you don't deserve this, I think is important. All right, well, I want to remind everyone that we have merch. The link is below. You can get a shirt. You can Take Care of Yourself. That's a favorite of a lot of people, but there's a lot of variation. So up to you, and everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.